Start streaming. Streaming's on. Okay. Oh. Hey,
Hello.
what are we doing out there in interwebs?
The interwebs.
Once again, I got Bob Kosh up in the top, Ben Herskowitz up there, some guy named Bobby Lipschitz up in the top right, Jay-Z, man in the bottom left, Mike in the bottom middle, and our good pal, half of the Wet Bandits, Matt Savini in the bottom right. How's everybody doing?
Incomplete half.
Good, man.
Should have brought the other half on. That would have really made things interesting.
Could you imagine? We are live. We are in charge, and as you can tell from us, I think there's only three of us that are in our actual locations.
Yep.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Anyone anywhere good?
Nope.
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 It says
All right.
it says Sir Hampton on it.
At least it doesn't say Motel 6.
Yeah, I'm in
Ooh.
a fancier motel. I get glass.
You get more status.
There's nothing like a studio suite to make you feel important.
I love it. Oh
All
man,
right.
we got a whole bunch of people here already. Adam
That's-
McFadden, I can see is in there. I got Mark Scuso, got Kent, Rob Horrigan. Holy cow, we got a whole bunch of people here.
Okay, wait. You said
Excellent.
you said Mark's on?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do this. Happy birthday to yous,
Oh,
Marky Mark
oh
Sukuso.
my.
I know
Happy
he probably didn't want anybody to know he's 60, but I had to throw it out there.
Well, before we start with the topic, you notice we are rocking a Chiron across the top, and that is to tell you about the next scholarship that we're giving out. So, Sir Kashignano, we're talking about that. I think next month we're giving away the next one.
Correct. But make sure you go on the Facebook page, Hazmat Guy's Facebook page, that at the top of the show, there's a link. Go to the link and fill out the form and do your essay, because that's how we pick. You never know. You could be one of the lucky winners.
Yep.
Say,
And just submit it. And if we could, can you send me the link and I'll put it in the comments of this episode as well, just so they can find it. You know what? I'll find it. I'll find it during somebody's talking, some drivel. But, all right, Mike.
All right, so I'm going to begin the drivel, and for those that are listening, the comments, I want to hear what you have to say, and support it with your actual thoughts, right? Like that whole like yes no thing. It doesn't fly in the classroom. It's not flying tonight. So we'll start off with a couple of warm-ups, and then I have a few things to ponder. While we kind of go through the night. First off, where are officers during an entry? Cold zone, warm zone, or with the entry team? Where do they belong?
Wow.
My
you're gonna come out
opinion?
hot like that.
What? That's
Coming
my
out hot.
warm-up. I told you I was going to do a warm-up. This is the warm-up.
Wow.
Can't wait to see what the other questions are. Woo.
Might have to crack another bottle to get ready for this.
Okay, I'm in.
So where do you think they belong? I think they belong not with the entry team, outside, away from me, where they don't bother me. Thoughts?
I have a question. Are we talking command officers, or are we talking officers
That's my
meaning
question.
like LTs or captains, like as a
Yes.
crew? Yeah, all of it?
All of it.
Okay. All right.
So I will say, for us in the O-Town, we have the lieutenant on the hazmat truck company is the safety officer, and he oversees the entry team going down range. The hazmat officer is with command on a separate tack, which keeps the chief from chiming in and saying shit that he doesn't need to be saying.
So is that safety officer with the entry team? Because isn't a safety officer kind of a broad picture?
He's typically not.
Okay.
But it also depends on the amount of techs we have. So he may have to be the grunt in the suit, and then somebody else is a safety officer, maybe from another hazmat truck company. It really just depends who showed up. But to that point, as far as who shows up, and this is something for everybody to consider, they set out, I can't say me anymore because I'm not there anymore, a hazmat roster as to who's the hazmat officer, who's the hazmat safety, who's entry team 1, who's entry team 2, who's research, and the whole 9 yards. And that is sent out to all special ops stations, so you know when you get on scene what position you're in.
Okay. Ben, you want to take a swing?
Uh-uh. Go ahead, Ben.
Ben, there's no noise coming from your face.
Oh, you know what might happen if I on a click. I was typing. I have a mechanical keyboard. It's super loud, so I was trying to be polite. I think for us it's always a little bit different because we're a volunteer organization. So right, you get who you get when you get them. And for us, the big thing was training that it is position over rank. So it doesn't matter like officer as in like what rank you hold on the scene is arguably immaterial unless you wish to use that rank to supplant someone. Like, hey, I think you're not doing a great job, or this is a more serious incident. For us, it's about the position. So the people that would function as I believe in the officer roles that you're describing, they would be, in the cold zone, where you might have a guy that happens to be a lieutenant or a chief officer that's on an entry team, but for that entry, he's not a chief or a lieutenant. He is whatever, if he's the leader of that entry team, he's entry team A's leader. If he or she is not, because like they've got someone that's got more skill or a specialty, so that's our thing, is looking at people's specialties. If we're going in on a highway event, well, the person that's going to be in charge on that entry team is probably going to be the person that has the most experience on the highway tank side. And so it doesn't matter what rank they hold, but that takes a lot of training to kind of beat out of people that like your rank means nothing. Once the bell goes off, it's what position you were in. And I'm not saying it always works. Like, I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, it's always hunky-dory. There are times when stuff kind of goes off the rail, but it's important. In my opinion, it on the fire ground, it should always be position over rank, except unless you want to use rank. So I'm the engine, like a house fire. I arrive on the second arriving engine. No one's taking command, and I take command. If the chief doesn't come and take it from me and he wants to go in and play inside, like, I guess that's okay. But then he can't from inside be supplanting unless he wants to come out and be like, I'm now taking command. I think hazmat has to be the same way, because you can't have two sets of officers. And I think the problem that you're talking about, where you wind up with a person in a officer role downrange, is that they wind up with the entry team trying to serve two masters. You've got the people outside making the decision, and then you have the people inside that are second guessing everything that you do, which is what it sounds like maybe was your experience. Am I close?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've experienced both. I've had officers come in on the entry team and they've been phenomenal. I've had officers come in on the entry team and I wanted to, shove a tingly up their ass. And then I've had officers that stayed outside and things were great, and officers stayed outside and things fell apart because there was no supervision. So, I'm kind of curious as to what, everybody's thought process was. My default is let, me and my entry team do our job. And if we need you, we'll call for you. But, different systems. I came from a paid system. You came from a volunteer. So, there clearly is no right or wrong, just what seems to be the best.
Jay-Z?
So I'll divide it into three different categories, how we do it in our system. If I'm the captain on Engine 4 or Squad 8, and we are required to do a recon, I'm going with my crew. I'm not. I don't believe in letting them do it. I want to be there even if I'm not carrying a meter. I'm not doing so, and not because I don't trust them. It's just I want to see what's going on, and I want to be those eyes that are looking for stuff that doesn't match or that I think is dangerous while they're doing their job. And that's usually how we do it. It's the same with TRT. I mean, I always go up the mountain because, I just think it's something I have to do. Command officers, when I'm talking chief officers, they never enter the hot zone. Have they done it? Occasionally, and it's not a good idea, but they generally stay in the cold zone. Safety officers, that was my job for, 15 years. Did I put my stuff on and go in? Absolutely. I would follow a recon team in, or an entry team that's maybe not in chemical protective clothing. Maybe we're doing an entry with bunker gear, and I'm just watching. I'm watching. I'm making sure that everything is safe, because I had a partner that was on the outside do it. But and not all our safety officers do it that way, but that's what Daryl and I believed in when we were working together. So that's my three perspectives on it. Yeah, if we're getting into level A's, which we don't do very often, I might not go in that because maybe we're going to do in 2 and 2, and my guys would probably do a better job than me. Me and the older guy. So that may change stuff, but for the most part, I always, as an officer, as a captain, I always went with my crew.
Mr. Matt.
I'm gonna say it's a hated answer. It depends. And going fireside or hazmat side, either way. I love I like having the idea of an officer there to keep an eye, like Jeff was just saying, keeping an eye on the whole picture while the entry guys are doing their task. It's very easy to get tunnel vision when you're working something like that, especially if you're in CPC and now you're really kind of zoned in and there's a lot of pressure going. It could also serve another as another kind of set of hands, if you will. Like, God forbid there's a suit emergency. Now you have 2 guys that can start pulling the guy out before somebody gets there, or start packaging or doing some kind of an assessment. Like, instead of just two guys there, now one's working on the other, waiting for help. So I like it that point of view. But then the other flip side, like Mike said, like I've had sometimes there's bosses that know enough to get themselves in trouble and not really, they don't know what they don't know. So then they can, they're in there and now they're trying to put their 2 cents in while you're trying to work. And it's like, just get the fuck out of here, man. Let me work. I got this. So yeah, I can see both sides of that. It depends thing. Who's working, what the thing is. It is a tough one. I could push back either way on that one.
I'll take a swing at this thing. I think that the officer should be with you, but not with you. What I mean by that is, like, if you think about if a technician, an operations level guy, and a civilian are walking forward, and we get to the PEL, well, then we got to put on our SDBA. So the civilian stays there in the cold zone while the ops and tech move forward, and then we got to change PPE at the IDLH, and that means the ops stays there and the tech moves forward, right? So if, let's say, me and Matt are up there turning wrenches and bolts and stuff like that, the officer should be outside the IDLH, ergo in a lower level of PPE, watching the whole operation, because I'm functioning on this piece, as opposed to he's watching the surrounding piece. He's watching the whole piece. He's with the 4-gas meter, because when I'm up at the valve, I'm not wearing a meter. My job is to turn a wrench. And so somebody has to kind of watch the whole thing. And so what we commonly conflate in hazmat is that it's like a fire scene. I got to be right next to the guy. But you really have to be IDLH. And that all comes down to vapor pressure. Low vapor pressure things, yeah, he could be on your shoulder. High vapor pressure things, he might be at the door. So I think there is a safety net needed. I just don't, the distance between it is all dependent on the chemistry of the chemical that we're dealing with. That's my personal, my point of that.
All right. Next thoughts, and I'd like everybody to throw an answer in, well, not the guys talking, but the guys in the audience, right? Is it time for lithium-ion batteries to be transferred over to operations? Is it time for hazmat to give up having to deal with the batteries? Do we know enough and understand enough to be able to create an SOP for this to become just a standard thing that an engine and a truck company does?
All right, let's mix it up. We'll start with Ben.
Well, I think it's like all hazmat. Not that it depends, but for example, is gasoline or diesel fuel a hazmat, right? I guess it depends on the quantity and the situation. If it's 2 gallons from a jerry can, clearly that's an ops level thing, right? You don't need the hazmat team. So if you have batteries that are already on fire, my opinion, that's an ops thing. Let them burn. They're on fire. And so I guess we need some more evidence on what is still being produced in the gases. But you have one that's like preparing to off gas, or one that's off gassing but not on fire. Like, Is it one battery? Is it like a cell phone, or is this a storage facility? You know, and even within that, the problem becomes that lithium ion batteries is like this now, this colloquialism for a bunch of stuff. We had a call the telepresence unit, I think it was a week ago, for I'm going to butcher this here. It was a bromine based battery, and I can't remember what the other alkalite is, but like they're like, we're not familiar with this. And so I think that's going to be our dilemma for a long time. It's no different than, diesel fuel or gasoline. It has to do with the situation and the quantity. That's what drives it, because everything on earth is a chemical, right? But like, water, at some point can be like, has a toxicity level, but it's not anything that the hazmat teams needs to be involved in. I think batteries are going to have to be the same way. I think the SOP has to say, in these narrow set of circumstances, this is an ops level thing, because we've understand it enough that you can paint it into this box. But if it's not into this box, you should at least call, phone a friend and be like, what is happening in this situation?
Jay-Z.
Should we turn lithium ion batteries over to operations? 100% yes. What we're talking about when we talk about lithium ion batteries is what they're producing, which we're getting in house fires or commercial structure fires. I've been in structure fire in one of those places where they chrome bumpers and stuff. You don't think they have bad stuff in there? I mean, we didn't call the hazmat team. Well, of course, this was a long time ago, but we were making entry in there, and we're fighting fire in there. I mean, we're going to come out. We're going to be exposed to a lot of stuff. Now, like kind of Ben said, if we had a couple fires in some large commercial structures that had lithium ion batteries in it, and they let it burn, should we call the hazmat team? Absolutely. We've got work to do. We have to monitor the air, see where it's going. We have to make sure the storm drains are diked and dammed so nothing's going down there. Maybe pH the water, or whatever. But there's if you've got a first or second alarm structure fire with EV batteries, you got something for the hazmat team to do. But that regular stuff that New York City's going on, I've been seeing it. No, just give it to ops and let them do their thing. My opinion.
Monsieur Sabini.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jeff and Ben a bit. Especially for the city, everybody they're going in with water and bunker gear and an SCBA, same thing as the hazmat teams are to deal with. If it's putting it in cell block and a bucket of water, it's not really, you can train in house and teach you guys how to handle that and make it part of your SOPs. There's no reason to not. For something simple like an e-bike or a scooter, you get into like a Tesla or some kind of bigger system, like an ESS or something like that, then obviously that's a whole different that's a whole different scenario. But I don't see any reason, especially when the marshals are doing overhaul at 3 a.m. and they call you to come overpack 3 burnt out shells.
Yeah.
And then you got to wait another hour for the photo guy from the marshals to show up. I think we're well beyond that point now. I think everybody can be overpacking those.
I'm gonna take the stance before I go to Kosh on and I'm gonna agree with Greg Scott. Make it a mission specific skill set. We're literally in the first draft of NFPA 470 right now. Today actually is the first day of Salt Lake City, 3 days, 4 days, or something that the committee is meeting to talk about updates to the system. And in between these two drafts, you're able to put in open what do they call it?
Public comments.
Open comments. And put this is really not a bad deal, because you got to think, we've been doing this for 5 years. We've been training a ton, whether it's us or you or Frank or Bill or whoever. There's been tons of training out there. Everybody's trained. I'm not going to say everybody, but most people are trained. I think we've saturated the system where either the trainers are done and now the training is done in-house or whatever it is. And could it be a mission specific skill set? There's nothing saying that you can only have 7. We can make it whatever we want. We write the rules. So maybe we make it like that. I don't disagree with that. Maybe make it a mission-specific skill set and start moving it over to them. So that's my 2 cents. Bob Kosh, what do you think?
So we got to remember what our main mission is anyway, which is emergency response. We don't have to fix everybody's problems. We've gone too far to the other side. When the fire's out, you come across some batteries, dig a hole in the front yard, throw the shit in the hole, fill it with water, call it a day. And it's a contractor's problem.
Oh, this is California.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. But Bob
Right.
Koch was also the supervisor for the Hooker Chemical Company in Love Canal. So let's remember that, okay?
But I mean, seriously, we take on, because it's in our DNA, we want to fix everybody's problem. At some point, we got to draw the line and go, that's your that's a you problem. That's not a me problem anymore. The fire's out. We're done. Let's pack it up and go home. Somebody else needs to take care of that. If during overhaul you come across some of this stuff, seriously, dig a hole, scoop it up with a shovel, and take it out. Tesla and everything, like Matt was saying, obviously that's a much different scenario. But these little batteries that are here and there that everybody's flipping a lid over, we got to take a step back and what is our primary mission? Put the number one is life safety, obviously, and two, put the damn fire out and call it a day. We are trying to take on everybody else's job and responsibility, and at some point, we just got to draw a line and go, "We're done. Fire's out. Let's go home. This is a contractor problem now, or whomever, wherever you're at."
Mike,
my 2 cents.
My 2 cents would combine a little bit of Bobby's and a little bit of Ben's, and I think we would go. I think it would go above mission specific. I say start putting it into the probational firefighter 1 curriculum. And I say that because we often think of mission specific as being things that, like, all right, you're a firefighter and maybe a couple of times in your career, you're going to be called to do these things, right? You're going to be called to do decon. You're going to be called to perform this. We can pretty much guarantee that there's a battery at every structure fire a firefighter goes to from this point forward. So I think it should be kind of part of that national curriculum. And like Ben said, once you start to get certain quantities involved, maybe the hazmat team kind of comes and steps in to lend assistance and hands. But I think for the most part, we should start wrapping this into firefighter 1 curriculum.
I have a follow-on. When you're done, I have a follow-on question that I think encapsulates a direction. I'm curious if that's where you're headed. So you let me know. And
go for it.
So I guess the question is, right, we talk about risk-based response, right? And so what is the hazmat team's mission, which Kosh brought up? And I think that's one of the things where there's maybe a divide. As I was doing some research on another project, I came across the other hazmat roundtable, right? They meet in the National Fire Academy, and they have a discussion. And there was a discussion point about for several years, if you read their documents, where the hazmat team has the most impact when employed as an agent of public health, which is not how most hazmat teams currently operate. And so the question you stated was like, there's all these chemicals in a fire. Do we bring the hazmat team to all those fires? And the answer is not always. But the reverse question is, when should you? So, for example, you have a major fire and you have a smoke column that's pushing into a community. Should you maybe consider, maybe not not talking like sending hazmat techs down range, but you have other resources. Do you engage the services of a plume modeling specialist to say, hey, this is where we should be sheltering in place because there is chemicals in that plume? I mean, it's smoke, right? But smoke is still a plume. And so there are services that a hazmat team can provide, and in some jurisdictions do, as like I said, an agent of public health. It's not putting on the level A suit and running in and trying to diffuse the drum that's bulging or any of that sort of thing. But there are services that are hazmat tech specialist level stuff that we probably should be providing on certain house fires. Do we provide some places they provide a person outside to help with doffing of turnout gear post-fire? As that gets more and more, maybe popularity is the wrong word, but mainstream, it becomes like, hey, Like, where's that line? I'm not saying I know where it is, but
But what does that have to do with lithium ion batteries?
Well, for example, the same thing. Like, if it's a small, are you applying batteries? For example, we don't need a hazmat team because they're everywhere, and we have the same chemicals in the batteries that we do in the fire smoke. And I would agree that that's mostly true. But there reaches a point where I think there's enough batteries or enough plume or enough hazard that it may not require the traditional hazmat response, 2 in, 2 out, guys in suits, overpacking, but may require another hazmat specialist service such as risk assessment. And that, I guess my question is, in your jurisdictions, is that considered the involvement of the hazmat team, or is that just you happen to have a guy that does those things? Does that make sense? Maybe I've made too big of a loop, and that's been known to happen.
It does.
I think you should really pay attention to what's happening behind you. You have a leaking drum.
Yeah,
and you
well,
gotta address it.
that is true. That is very true.
I
try to change up.
I can house, all right, please.
Yeah, we can fix it. I'll make it a train.
Oh no.
All right.
We're coming up on 29 minutes. Do you want to do one more?
Yeah, I've got 10 in front of me. So you want me to get the one that's all right. I'm going to do the one that could potentially hit the hardest. Is NFPA 470 overkill? Does it create a standard in which most departments are unable to achieve? Is it created for an ideal world that is not realistic? In today's world, we've got 2 to 4 person crews, volunteer crews, incomplete hazmat teams, delayed technical responses, limited PPE and meters on the teams, rural or suburban staffing, and competing calls.
Wait. Can you repeat all that one more time, please?
Sure.
I'm kidding. Stop it.
You weren't kidding about this one.
All right, JZ, light it up.
Is it? You said, is it overrated or is it
Is it overkill?
Overkill. I think we need a standard somewhere. So I think it's a good standard. And if you really read into some of the 470 stuff, there is kind of like a lot of leeway with it, because they're very general, because they can't cover every single thing. But there's some stuff in there that's like, hey, this is a definite. Now, one thing that's not in there that I'm surprised at, and I know why it's not in there, is they don't talk about doing medicals for anybody that gets in a level A suit. It's not required. Do I think it's required? Absolutely. I think it's required.
Do they not mention it because it's already addressed in OSHA?
So my understanding, it's not required in OSHA either. Is that? Do you guys have something different?
Well, are we referring to medical surveillance as a policy for your hazmat tech, or are you referring to like just before you make entry, getting vitals in and out? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, before you get in your level A suit.
Oh, okay.
You're doing medicals on them. What my understanding is, it's not in 470 and it's not in OSHA either. And I know for a long time, and somebody can correct me if this is Rick Emery is on here, perhaps they had it and then they got rid of it because there were too many people on the committee that were like, yeah, we don't really want to do that. That's a lot to do. So it wasn't put in there. Well, we put in our SOPs that we do it. That's just what we do, because you know what? All we're doing is plumbing. That's all we're doing. We're just doing plumbing. I'm not killing anybody for going in there turning wrenches. So get back to the point. Is it overkill? Hey, we need some sort of standard. I don't think it's too encumbering so much. And hey, you know what? You're not required to follow it. I mean, that you're not required. It's a guideline. If you go to court, they're going to put it up against you. But I still think it's good to have that kind of guidance, and it's not a procedure. It's a guidance.
Mike, what do you think?
I like 470. I like the guidelines that it gives. I like how it says it gives really good standards for what a technician should know, how they should operate, what they should do. I think, like Jeff said, it's a standard. If you can't meet it, defend why you can't meet it in court. But for the most part, nobody's going to become, throwing fines at you and doing anything like that. And I also think it's a really good in a structure that is paramilitary. It provides technicians with the ability to push back against a system that doesn't really understand hazmat. So it almost gives like a buffer and structure when somebody wants to, change a system, or a chief may not understand why we do something. It's kind of like, well, yeah, but it's here in the standard. Like it gives us room to push back on the system. So I'm personally pro NFPA 470 in many of the things that it does.
Mr. Kosh.
I like the whole concept of it. My biggest issue that I have is that the chiefs don't follow it. It's great to have a policy. It's great to have something in writing. I know departments that pick and choose what from the standard they want to use and not use. And like Mike says, it's not a law. It's not OSHA. It's just recommendations. But I think you have to have the recommendations. I wish that more chiefs, and I don't mean the battalions and division, I'm talking about the big cheese, would start abiding by some of this a little bit more instead of, I don't want to worry about that. That doesn't really apply to us. Because if we had more buy-in, I think things would be a lot smoother, more seamless. So my overall, yes, I like 470. I like the way things go. I think there are maybe one or two things that probably are a little down a rabbit hole. But I think overall, yeah, it's a good thing. We just need to get the chiefs to start abiding by it instead of going, oh yeah, okay, well, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. Precious. That's precious.
What about you, Bobby?
Oh, me? Oh,
yeah.
I'll tell you what. When I joined the committee and I sat on the committee, I was pulling the last 6 strands of my hair out because I'm like, oh my God, we're talking about.
I thought your eyebrows got thinner.
Yeah, like this shall supersedes this shall, and I'm like, this is mind numbing. And then I kind of pulled back and I said, making the sausage is never sexy, but the end document is honestly good. There is a ton of very smart people in their fields that are giving their input, and they're adjusting it to a commonality that is approachable, because there's a smattering of perspectives across the entire thing. There's volunteers, there's industry, there's FBI, the diversity of people giving opinions is insane. And so if you're lucky enough to be on the committee versus lucky enough to just listen in, and I encourage people to listen in because you got to hear how it's done, is that they're cutting a ton of crap out of this next one that's coming out. And that's good. Small doesn't mean better, big doesn't mean better, but flexing means better. It's changing with the times, as opposed to like OSHA, which has been stuck in the same mud since like 1987 or whatever the hell the number is. It hasn't been adjusted in 40 years. And it's like, I get it. It doesn't have to be adjusted because it's the strategy, and NFPA is the tactics kind of thing. It's like, yeah, we want you to do these things. Here's how you're going to do it kind of thing. Like, okay, cool. So is NFPA good? I'm pro NFPA. I am pro NFPA. I think it is a good document to be able to push back on brass with it. It is also good to have a training step-off pad to it because it's the basis of all, like, hey, this is why we do it. And it's not because, oh, the FDNY says it or Phoenix says it or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like the general consensus says it. And it's a good push-off in an argument, in a training document, in a reasoning, discussion. I think it's just good. Matt,
we just got to get more chiefs to buy in on it and do it. That's my biggest thing.
One thing I would say is chiefs are risk adverse, And going up against NFPA in today's world is very risque.
Yeah.
Right, because it used to be like when Jay-Z get on, he was Jesus's bop. I mean, he was like the Proby's, he was Jesus's Proby. And back then, the job used to take care of the guys. Like if the boss made a call, they had his back. And in today's world, you make a call as a captain, Jeff, they'll be like, "Oh yeah," throw you right under the bus, like, and without a second thought. And so, like, I think bosses fighting NFPA today is not bosses fighting NFPA 25, 30 years ago. I think they're
So-
much less apt to do it. Jay-Z, go. Sorry.
Yeah, I just make one quick comment. I think we're kind of fooling ourselves when we're talking about the Chiefs. I guarantee our Chiefs that are special ops chiefs have never read 470, and probably
True.
95% of the techs haven't read 470. Let's be honest about
That's
that, okay?
Yep.
very
Let's
Good
true.
point. Very
completely
good
honest.
point.
So here's what I say about that. JCP says NFPA gives teeth to when you tell a BC or a sucky crew they're doing it wrong. Absolutely, because you know what? When some chief or somebody says we're going to do this, and you go, no, you can't do that, and they go, why? It's because it's against an NFPA guideline. It shuts them down right away because
Right.
you've read it and you know it, and I think that's an important thing. But read the 470.
No, you can say it, man.
I'm more
Say it.
offended if you don't
We're-
swear.
Read the
Yeah,
470.
we're
you
not
know,
gonna get in
read
trouble.
it.
All you gotta
Yeah.
do is say earmuffs, and then you can
Yeah.
say whatever you want.
Read it.
I'm
Read it so
offended.
you could be smart. You know, so you could shut those officers down, right, Mike?
You absolutely
I'm
should
just
read it.
yes, 100%, and I'm just excited that I got a topic that's got Jeff animated.
And he
Oh,
dropped an
Matt.
F-bomb.
Matt, go.
Matt,
I mean, I got nothing to go against anything anybody else said. You need some kind of basic for, you need a basis for something for any organization that you're talking about, whether it's like a little league or 470. You need some kind of building block and basis for what you're gonna do, and then everybody else can adopt and make it work for how they need to, what their needs are, what their resources are, and their budgets, and how they can plug it in and expand on that and make it bigger, or shrink it down. The purse strings are tighter. We're going to scale it back to the very basics, but you got to have those basics there. And to what Jeff was saying, and I've seen Mike do it on scene with chiefs and officers, where he goes and says, no, we can't do that because of this, and they say, oh, right away they're like, oh, okay.
except
Like
once.
he's well,
won't
except
go
once that one time, but we won't break that up. But I've seen that happen, and they know, like, oh, okay, well, he clearly knows what he's talking about, and I'm out of my depth here. So you need a groundwork for something, and it gives you that.
Well,
Ben?
My 2 cents.
What do
I
you think?
think I like NFPA 470. It has changed some of my views. I used to tease that NFPA was really not for practical application, is what it stood for. And I think the big thing that I like about 470 is it's a framework, right? It's not like other documents, or it's like you will do A and then B and then C. And one of the life lessons my father, who's an engineer, has taught me is that it is far better to build something that is adjustable than build something that is perfect. It doesn't matter if I'm the best carpenter in the world and I build a table that every leg is exactly the same length, and then I take it to the Upper East Side walk up and the floor is crooked, the table is going to wobble. So having adjustable feet is preferred to perfection. And I think that's the same case here. I like the fact that they basically said for technicians, like, you need to be able to learn how to take the information, apply it, and reach an outcome, versus operations is like you still have to follow an SOP, right? Or SOG. And for technicians, they said we need to change. And that's actually one of the biggest hurdles that and we're dealing with that in our state, and I'm sure in other states, is that's a huge change in how someone has to teach technicians, because it's no longer going to be acceptable to be like, thou shall turn on the meter and do this and flip this drum and you overpack like this, and then the class is done in a short amount of time. Now it's, you need to understand these concepts. Don't just read back to me that you know the word vapor pressure and its textbook definition. You need to convince me, the instructor, that you understand it and what it means relative to any number of other factors. And the other thing I think that's done is really shown that there's a lot of hazmat instructors that didn't really understand this material either. And so I think that is some of the hiccups when people are now being forced out of their comfort zone from just being able to follow a checklist on a call from start to finish. The expectation that you have to basically, it's like anymore, like I view like hazmat tech, it's like Dr. Hazmat. And what I mean by that is not medical doctor, like defend your thesis doctor, like the PhD. Why is it that we're going to do this? I'm the chief, and Mike, you're the hazmat branch officer, and I'm going to be like, Mike, okay, tell me why we're going to do it that way, because it no longer, I can't open up my book and be like, oh, we're doing this, so now you have to defend your thesis. Well, chief, we're going to do this because I anticipate that based on the temperature, if we don't do anything, when the sun comes up, the temperature is going to rise 30 degrees. It's going to be over its self-accelerating decomposition temperature, and this is going to be an absolute shit show. Do you want a shit show? Oh, no, I definitely don't want a shit show. Great. Then we're going to do the following. And I think that's the big paradigm shift that a nerd like me is excited for. And I'm sure that there's an equal number of people that, you know, I'll be a little hostile, but like people that joined the hazmat team because it was an extra couple bucks an hour. I imagine some of those people are not so excited about it because they don't have the passion. They just want to earn their extra money and follow a checklist. And for those people, I'm sure they don't like some of the changes. But the more NFPA documents we can make, like 470, where we try and train people to think instead of just do, I'm 100% in favor of.
Ben, I am sure nobody thinks you're a nerd out there. So
yeah, not at all.
No,
in fact, we'd really like a better articulated opinion if you don't mind.
I don't think there's anything. I think you'd be hard pressed to find one. Mike, wrap this one up for us.
Okay, so with all of the things in 470, here's a question. Nobody's answering it tonight. We're already at the end, but I would like to pick it up next month if possible. And please leave comments if you're watching this and we're not live, by all means, and we will address them. With all of the information that NFPA says we should know, we should learn, we should do, what are your thoughts on these 40-hour tech classes that some agencies are putting out there, specifically ones that are pro board rated at the end? And if you don't agree that 40 hours is enough time, does it delegitimize the pro board certification? Like, is pro board basically telling us, hey, we are, for all intent and purposes, useless when it comes to a certifying agency because we allow for 40 hours to claim to be able to cover all of this information?
Mike?
Yes.
I can't wait.
He's animated again.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll see you all next month.
So excited.
Well, with that being said, I will say thank you, Matt, for coming on the show. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate everybody, and good topic. We'll see you all next Tuesday. Not really, but we'll see you all next Tuesday. Goodbye.